Thank you very much, Dara, for coming to Zagreb, dear friends, dear colleagues, members of the European People's Party family. I'm very happy to meet you on behalf of the Croatian Democratic Union, on behalf of all my colleagues who are present here today, vice presidents of the party, vice presidents of the parliament, two ministers in my government, a number of members of the European Parliament, led by Plenković, who is the chair of our delegation. Andrej also joined, our political international secretaries, and a number of the colleagues who were with us in various campaigns in the last couple of years. May I, first of all, congratulate our friend and colleague Sebastian Kurz for winning elections in Austria yesterday. I think this is a great success for our political family, and another, I guess, a newcomer to the members of the European Council coming from the Prime Ministers or heads of state in this club, and I look forward to see him actually on Thursday in Brussels. This is a great achievement, and I think another important landmark of the success of the EPP family. May I just say a few points which are on the mind of Croatian Democratic Union and what we have done in the last couple of years. Dara said that we won several elections in the last couple of years. When we look a little bit deeper, we actually won basically all of them since 2013. We won the first European Parliament ad hoc elections, we won the second general elections for European Parliament in 2014, we won the local elections in 2013, then we won the presidential elections when Andrej also comes from our party. After the extraordinary parliamentary elections, we won the national elections last year in September. And then this year in May, we won the local elections where the Croatian Democratic Union has 13 out of 20 counties. And we have approximately about just few percentages below 50% of Croatian cities and 50% of Croatian municipalities. So we like to say internally we have like the vertical of power. I would say that we have a vertical of responsibility for our country in this multi-layered governance exercise that we have. And the fact that our party was the strongest in the European Parliament, that our MEPs are part of the EPP group in the European Parliament, puts the entire success of the Croatian Democratic Union and various electoral challenges that we had really as something consistent and something that has positioned the party to be the strongest political actor in the country. With that in mind, I would like to say where we positioned the Croatian Democratic Union today. We have firmly anchored our party into the center-right politics, exactly where the values, principles, platforms and programs and ideas of the EPP are based. These are the values that we accurately reflect in all our policies on whatever level of governance we are responsible for. This is crucial because I fully believe that strengthening the mainstream in the times of an entirely changed communication environment and entire atmosphere at the national level in Europe today is a task which is predominant for all of us in our own countries. We are facing serious threats from populist parties, whether they come from right, from left, or they try to take the space of the parties of the EPP family. This is a phenomenon which is really across the European political spectrum. I always remember the analysis of the European Parliament elections 2014, which gave us a signal what we might anticipate at various electoral challenges on a national level. When we look at the results of relative winners in the big member states in 2014, then we could clearly see that it was UKIP in UK, that it was National Front in France, that it was Cinque Stelle in Italy, that it was Ciudadanos or Podemos in Spain, and that it was another party rather than our partner in Poland. And that literally later on became a tendency at the national level. So this is a challenge. It is a challenge which we need to address by being more credible and being more problem solving oriented and solution oriented to the real issues that face our citizens wherever we come. This is key. And I think in that respect we've done a good job in Croatia. We've done a good job on a national level, we've done a good job at the local level. Being credible, being clear, being empathical towards the real needs of our citizens, and trying to project the main objectives of our policies. From that point of view, for Croatia, we last year put forward 4 major points. One, we wanting to regain the trust of the citizens into the political parties, into the political institutions of the state. That was one of the key moments, because we felt that last year somehow the institutions were fragile and people were losing trust. Without the trust of our citizens, we will not go very far. So element number 1 in last year's elections was how to project more of a political stability. We have different electoral systems. Some of them project greater or medium-term stability. Some of them basically force the political parties to enter into the post-electoral coalition exercises. Ours is such. Given our electoral system, it's very difficult. It's a proportional system. It's very difficult that anybody would obtain a clearly 50+1 majority in the Croatian parliament. So it requires a lot of tact and a lot of common denominators post-electoral negotiations to create a stable government. Second element in our policy was to have more legal certainty, legal security, legal predictability for the image of the country as such. This is critical for the key actors, which are domestic economic operators, but this is also crucial for those who would like to do business in our country, who would like to invest here, who would like to see what type of an image does the newest member in the European Union have, and how secure engagement in Croatia is for anybody who would like to be present here. In that respect, we had one important political, economic, financial item on the agenda, which was a serious crisis in one of the biggest Croatian companies, and we managed to overcome those challenges by acting responsibly in a determined manner and in the fully constitutional and legal manner, preventing any negative domino effect on the Croatian economy, on the jobs of our citizens, and on the overall financial and economic stability of the country. The third point which we put forward was the economic growth, regional development, better absorption of the European Union funds, something that for the newest member is still a key task, where we need to demonstrate to our citizens that actually it was worthwhile to join the European Union. This is key. This is something we need to demonstrate every single day, because it's very different if you're German, French, Italian, Dutch, or if you are Bulgarian, Romanian, Slovenian, or a Croatian in the EU, and this perception of the actual added value of our membership in the EU is something that we need to demonstrate on a daily basis. That's why we undertook a serious tax reform, which alleviated the burden on the Croatian citizens, on the Croatian economic operators, which left more income for our citizens to increase spending and to generate growth. Actually, we are in the second year in a row, where our growth will be around 3% of the GDP. We are diminishing our public debt, we are lowering unemployment, and we are addressing all the key challenges of our society, including the serious issue of the demographic revitalization of the country. The demographic trends are critical in many of our member states. Here, We are doing our maximum to establish policies which would first of all enable our young families to stay in Croatia, find jobs, and have a decent life for their own perspective. Despite the fact that we wanted and we very much support the internal mobility and free movement of people and workers, but if that mobility is going in a way which is excessive in terms of literally seeing that we have areas in Croatia where this tendency is something that is more of a problem rather than an asset, then we need to see how to address on a national level the adequate policies. The other element, which was the fourth pillar of our political agenda and our program, was the social cohesion and the main Christian principle of solidarity, one of the biggest values of our political family as well. And that's where we try to address in our program and our policies those who are less advantaged, who are deprived from equal chances in our society. And that's why we have increased the minimum wages, that's why we have a continued dialogue with our social partners, trade unions, business associations, and all of those actors who are supposed to help us creating a society where everybody would feel comfortable, welcome, and enable them to economically have a viable budget at home so as to have a decent life. These are the key elements. In this wider context, we of course take a look at the European processes. And we know what are the key challenges on the European agenda. Most notably, and we have seen it as the main topics in Austria, I was just looking at the data, it was migration, it was fight against terrorism. I would say in Croatia as well, these items are important, but they are not dominating our agenda. They're not dominating our agenda. Our agenda is dominated by economic and social issues. And that is how we look at the European project, how the European Union can help us address these key challenges. Because for us, a strategic national goals were actually attained by membership of NATO and the European Union. We have anchored ourselves in terms of the values and the belonging in 2009 and in 2013. Now, we need to use this wider framework to better our conditions of living in Turkey. This is what people want, and this is what we, as the leaders of the institutions and political parties, want. And therefore, when I look at the current debate at the level of the European Union, I will pass and share with you a few comments from the dinner which we had in Tallinn 2 weeks ago, and just in the same week where we will meet again at the European Council in Brussels on Thursday and Friday. These last several weeks were featured by several important and referential speeches. The way I read the speech of Jean-Claude Juncker at the plenary of the European Parliament in Strasbourg was in a way, an attempt to create the legacy of Juncker Commission. That's how I saw it. Both institutionally, in terms of work and program agenda of the Commission, what has been done, what still needs to be done in the 18 months which are ahead of us. Second referential speech was a speech of Theresa May in Florence. The way I read it, this was a testament of the UK on Europe. She basically outlined how, from her perspective, looks the process, which is unfortunately Brexit process, according to Article 50, which will, whether we like it or not, dominate the image of our European project in the next 2 years. And it is not a positive process. The third referential speech was Macron's speech at Sorbonne, which carefully, as only the French can do in a very Cartesian way, he picked up the word sovereignty. And he used it on various layers of European policies, trying to merge the European enthusiasm with the realities of the renationalized politics on the member state level. That's how I read it, and I don't think I have misjudged what he wanted to say. So, from the perception of a country, which is Croatia, which has two major objectives in the next 5 years when it comes to the European agenda. First one is to join the Schengen space of free movement. We are doing a lot, and our Ministry of Interior and other line ministries are making a great progress in fulfilling the technical criteria, and we want to be ready to come to a phase where a political decision would be passed in the first part of 2019. We will accompany this first step with the second one by launching a study on the criteria which are yet to be fulfilled so as to join the Eurozone, something that we have already agreed upon in our accession treaty, and which we ratified not only in the Parliament but also by a referendum which we have positively voted upon in January 2012, so as to first fulfill the criteria to join the European exchange rate mechanism around 2020, and then to be ready for membership a few years later. These are the two major umbrella European projects which we will strive for. At the same time, in order to regain the credibility of the EU project, I think we have three major lines to address in the next 18 months. One, especially before the European elections, we need to strengthen the democratic legitimacy of European institutions. This is crucial, including greater participation in my own country of European elections. The average participation is around 43%. We are lucky that some countries have obligatory voting, so they lift the turnout. In our country, we were not good at it. 2014, we were around 25% of turnout. So it is our common task, and I think this is the first event so leading us towards the European elections in 2019 in Croatia at all. And therefore, I believe that these 2019 elections is a chance for us to show that we have identified in terms of citizens' participation in the EU membership. This is crucial. So, besides the democratic legitimacy, the second point is to show concrete impact of our policies and the redistributed power of the European budget. This is crucial, especially given the Brexit. I mean, we all know that 10 member states more or less participated with 80% of the income to the EU budget, with the UK leading. It is not something we can neglect. And therefore, perennial issue of the reform of the own resources system is something that should be on the agenda, and we have, in that respect, put forward some ideas on the debate of the next multi-annual financial framework, which is awaiting us after 2020. And the third point is, of course, the global role of the European Union, where with the dynamics of the crisis, with the challenges we face in our neighborhood, eastern neighborhood, Mediterranean, Middle East, Africa, failed states, poverty, wars, reflecting on our own internal dynamics, for instance, through an unprecedented refugee and migratory crisis of 2 years ago. And we have seen the consequences of these processes also very openly in the German elections in September. It's so clear that they have an immense impact on the results of these elections, including, as I said, AfD, who got, I think, in 2014 EP elections 7 seats, now they got 92, who remained or not in the group. So when I put all of this together, I can tell you that the resume of Tallinn debate, which to me was more of the dinner which should have taken place at the event which we had in Rome, which was the 60th anniversary of the Rome Treaties, but at the time we had a sort of fading away phase for Hollande, and now we have this sort of enthusiastic phase of Macron, which is good for the EU project as such, is that we need to address this issue with reasonable ambition, where the EPP family should provide critical input for the improvement of the EU at the European level and its effect on the national level. I think now is the moment where we should really put together the priorities on European and national level, and that is the campaign of 2009. Only with such an approach we can again be the strongest power in the European Parliament and the strongest and the most influential groups, thus helping each other on the national and European elections. We in Croatia, as the strongest party in general, not only in our political family, will do our utmost that we give our adequate contribution to our joint victory in 2019. And I'm sure that the presentation of Mr. Kopal, who helped us a lot in the last year's national campaign, will give you an idea how we approached a very demanding circumstances which we were facing about 15 months ago. So, being very pleased that you are here, I look forward to your conclusions, your debates, that will help us create a program, manifesto, and the platform for 2019 elections. HDZ is very happy to host you today. Thank you very much.